Hello, Marvel fans, comic geeks, and all nerds in between. My name is Megan with Vigilante Vibes, and I'm here to do another character breakdown for you. And this is a big one, literally, figuratively, any way you want to take that. So we're going to talk about Cain Marko, who is the Juggernaut. I feel like everyone knows the Juggernaut, but they don't know Cain Marko, if that makes sense. Like, they know of Juggernaut, but what's his backstory? It's actually way sadder than you'd think, which is par for the course for a lot of mutants. So, Cain Marko first appeared in Marvel Comics X-Men number 12 in May of 1965 and was created by Stan Lee, Jack Kirby, and Alex Toth. Cain Marko's life did not start easy by any means of the word. He was the son of Dr. Cain Marko and Marjorie Marko, but their marriage fell apart not long after he was born, leaving Cain with his father. As a kid, things were already rough. During a Halloween parade in the Junction, New York, he got jumped by local bullies and had to be rescued, an experience that stuck with him and fueled deep resentment towards anyone who mocked or pitied him. His mother died when he was just 3, and from there it was all downhill. Kurt raised him with a heavy hand, bouncing him from strict boarding schools until he just kept getting expelled. Eventually, Cain was sent to live with him in New Mexico, where Kurt was involved in the shady Black Womb project. Cain noticed the creepy experiments, kids suspended in tanks, but he honestly didn't care much. Like, he walked into his dad's lab, peeped out the situation, and then just brushed it off and went to watch TV instead. So I feel like there was already a good bit of desensitizing of him this early on. Things got way worse after Kurt's colleague, Dr. Brian Xavier, died in a nuclear accident. Kurt married Brian's widow, Sharon, and Cain moved into the Xavier mansion. That's where the real damage set in. Kurt openly favored Sharon's son, Charles Xavier, while constantly putting down Cain, which sounds, not surprising given how awful he was as a parent. The mix of favoritism, bullying, and abuse pushed Cain's anger into overdrive. He took it out on Charles, even as he secretly endured beatings from his father. When Charles' telepathy first kicked in, he accidentally sensed Cain's pain. But Cain did not see it as empathy. He saw it as a violation, which it is, to be honest. That moment locked in his hatred. Not long after, Sharon died too, and whatever was left of the family basically shattered. Then came the breaking point. During a fight in Kurt's lab, Cain accused him of causing Brian Xavier's accidental death. Kurt snapped, grabbed him, and shoved him down hard. But Charles overheard everything. Realizing that, Cain lost it. He smashed a lab, set off a chain reaction of chemicals, and triggered an explosion. Kurt managed to pull both boys out, but died from smoke inhalation. Aw, nuts. With his last breath, he admitted he could have saved Brian, and told Charles to hide his powers from Cain. Cain heard that, and took it as proof that Charles had been inside his head all along. From that moment on, Charles wasn't just a rival, he was the enemy. And many of you know, I have such a beef with Charles Xavier because I think of him as a villain. You may or may not agree, and that doesn't have any impact on me whatsoever, but I think he's a villain, and I do love a character who sees him the same way. Cain stayed in the mansion, stewing in that hatred, watching Charles excel at everything, school, sports, and especially his growing psychic abilities. And it only made it worse. Their rivalry finally boiled over into a fight, and Charles beat him easily. Not long after, Charles left for Oxford, leaving Cain behind with nothing but resentment. Years later, they ended up in the same U.S. military unit in Korea. Cain deserted during combat, and Charles went after him. That chase led them into a hidden temple, the Temple of Sidorak. Inside, Cain grabbed a glowing ruby and read the inscription, sealing his fate. The gem said, which mystically appeared to his mind to be English, "Whosoever touches this gem shall possess the power of the crimson bands of Sidorak. Henceforth, you who read these words shall become forevermore a human juggernaut." And that's where the name came from. The gem transformed him into something unstoppable, the Juggernaut. Then the cave collapsed under enemy bombardment, burying him alive. Charles made it out. Cain didn't, at least not right away. Because the thing about Juggernaut, he doesn't need food, air, or really even hope. Cain eventually clawed his way out under a ton of rocks, stronger and more invulnerable. He What I love about him is that he works off pure spite if he needs to, and I emotionally connect with that. He fully embraced the power, killed the previous Juggernaut to fully embrace the powers that came with the mantle, and even wiped out an entire village under Sidorac's influence. At that point, he wasn't just Cain Marko anymore. He was actually an avatar of a god. As the Juggernaut, Cain had released his soul to the deity Sidorak, becoming his human avatar. And from there, everything he did had one goal: get back to Charles Xavier and settle a lifetime of anger. That's the core of it. This wasn't just about power or destiny. Cain didn't become the Juggernaut because he was chosen. He became the Juggernaut because he was already carrying that kind of weight inside him. With this new goal of getting back at Charles Xavier, he tried plenty of times to achieve that goal. The problem, every time he tried, the X-Men shut him down. Over and over. Meanwhile, they were out there fighting for Charles' dream of peaceful coexistence, while Cain just kept coming at them harder. Eventually, he teamed up with the mutant mercenary Black Tom Cassidy, and the two of them quickly became some of the most wanted criminals on the planet. After years of playing the villain, things got weird, as they tend to do. Cain was suddenly pulled into an alternate universe where he helped form a team called the Exiles. When he finally made it back to his own reality, he ran straight into Onslaught, a massively powerful psionic entity who literally hurled him from Canada all the way to New York. Banged up, Cain crossed paths with the X-Men once again and was taken to Xavier's mansion to recover. When he woke up, he went looking for Charles to warn him about Onslaught, only to find out the truth. Onslaught was Charles. Worse, Onslaught ripped the ruby of Sidorak right out of Cain's chest and trapped him inside it. Inside the gem, Cain discovered an entire other plane of existence and a twisted aspect of Sidorak. A mystic named Gamor the Ancient tried to help him, channeling the gem's power into Cain. With that boost, Cain destroyed the corrupt entity and broke free, coming back stronger than ever. Gamor warned him that he was basically destined to destroy everything in his path, and Cain ignored that completely and went right back to being a menace. You gotta love him. Not long after, Cain heard rumors about a second Sidorak gem and went hunting for it, hoping to stack even more power. Instead, he walked straight into a trap set by a cult that drained his energy to fuel their own ruby. With the help from Black Tom Cassidy and even the X-Men, Cain managed to take control of the second gem, but it came with a catch. It was possessed. The spirit took over his body and started smashing through dimensions, trying to hunt down his enemy, until beings from other dimensions finally freed Cain from it. At some point, Cain learned the truth. Becoming the Juggernaut was never random. Sidorak had basically nudged him into it. Turns out Sidorak was just one of 8 gods, each with their own earthbound avatar called the Exemplars. They recruited Cain to help build a machine that would wipe out humanity's free will so their gods could take over. With Charles' help, Cain managed to get his head straight long enough to turn on them and shut the whole thing down. Then came another curveball. Things are never stable, ever. A sentient spaceship named Prosh showed up and pulled Cain into a time travel mission to save human evolution. Along the way, Cain had to face a harsh truth. For all his power, he'd wasted it. When the team got back to the present, they took down an alien called the Stranger, who was trying to control humanity's natural development. After that, Cain briefly worked as a government bounty hunter for the Commission for Superhuman Activities, but that did not last long. He drifted back to Black Tom Cassidy until things went sideways and Tom's powers spiraled out of control. Cain actually asked the X-Men for help stopping him. During the whole mess, it came out that Cain had lost Sidorak's power and wasn't invulnerable anymore. Tom was stopped, but not before knocking Cain into the water, where a young aquatic mutant, Sammy, pair, saved him. The two formed a surprisingly strong bond, and when Charles offered Cain a place at the mansion, he took it. For once, things were starting to look different. After helping on a mission, Cain officially joined the X-Men. But it didn't stay clean for long. When Sammy went back home to Canada, Cain ignored a restraining order to visit him and found out the kid was being abused by his father. Cain snapped, which is fair. brought back triggering memories. And in the chaos, he accidentally hurt Sammy's mom. Alpha Flight showed up, and seeing how terrified Sammy was, Cain gave up and let himself be taken in. Locked in a superhuman prison, Cain was assigned a lawyer, Jennifer Walters, aka She-Hulk. While his case was being worked out, Rhino broke loose and unintentionally freed Cain. Instead of escaping, Cain stayed behind and took Rhino down to save a guard. That moment actually really mattered. It helped his case and earned him some real respect from Walters. The two even started a relationship, but it did not last. Sidorak chose a new avatar and Cain had to step up to stop him. He won with She-Hulk's help, but the destruction from that fight made her rethink everything between them. Still, thanks to a heartfelt plea from Sammy's mother, Cain got a reduced sentence and was sent back to the US. He kept working with the X-Men while doing community service and going through anger management. After M-Day wiped out most mutants, Cain headed to England and joined a new version of Excalibur. But after a run-in with the Captain Universe force left him weakened, he ended up being placed on the Thunderbolts program working under Luke Cage. But that was not the last of Cain. He experienced huge events that shaped mutant world that we know today. He was granted citizenship of Krakoa. He joined Nightcrawler's Legionaries. He was elected as a new member of the X-Men at the third Hellfire Gala. He experienced the fall of X. He wreaked havoc on Orchis and eventually ended up on Scott Summers' X-Men team in Alaska, where he currently is in the comics. Through it all, villain, hero, wrecking ball, teammate, Cain Marko, aka the Juggernaut, never really stopped being the Juggernaut. He just kept figuring out what it meant. So that is who Juggernaut is, Cain Marko. Thank you to the listener who asked me to make this breakdown. Sorry, it's been some time. It took some time to research and write this episode. So I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you will like and subscribe, and I hope you have a marvelous day.